ball, RJ.
On a Friday, I didn't have my key to the house. They were eating dinner, and so I knock on the door, and Isaac, my one son, answers the door with his hat on backwards and looks up at me, and he yells into the house to the other kids and my wife, "Hey, everybody, Bob Stoops is here." So I got, well, it's, you know, so that's what I mean about it's like it's this different person, not this guy. You know, and that's why, like I said, some of my dearest friends to this day are guys that I was running around the neighborhood with.
Bob Stoops, telling stories. Bob Stoops in storytelling mode is actually pretty awesome. Like, I think Oklahoma in particular has been blessed with head coaches who, when you ask them to sit there and tell a good story, can actually tell you a pretty good story. From Stoops to Riley now with his famous Mike Leach dip story, which is pretty outstanding, pretty awesome, to Switzer, who we had on our air last Friday. Coach Switzer, as I've said, could read the phone book aloud. We'd all listen. And that's awesome. Now, what I really wanted to discuss during this time is Bob Stoops fairly compensated by Oklahoma? Now, follow me here. Stoops voluntarily moved from being a full-time employee as a special assistant to the athletic director, that'd be Joe Castiglione, to a half-time employee, part-time. You know, like the kind of dude that gets 28 hours a week and goes, "Yo, boss, can I get a few more?" According to the agenda with the OU Board of Regents, right? So Stoops' salary was cut in half, because full-time to halftime, to $162,500 annually for his part-time job. His contract is for another year. My God. Come on, man. After he retired in the summer of 2017, that means that he was making $325,000 to be Joe Castiglione's assistant. Is that like his executive assistant? You think he keeps his agenda? Writes down Joe C's, thoughts on Post-it notes? Types out his memoir? Now, I'm making jokes, but Bob has been a part of the program since he was hired in 99. And Bob put in a sustained success that rivals even what Coach Wilkinson put together. Because over the length of time, over the period of time, 20 friggin' years, you could say that there hasn't been a much more fruitful and sustained measure of success in OU football, even as he only got the one national championship and he never reeled off 47 straight because, well, football's harder today than it was then. Fight me. Now, we all know that Bob took a general manager and head coaching job in the XFL Dallas franchise, which I can't wait for them to get a name because my shirt still says XFL Dallas. And he's hired Hal Mummy to be his offensive coordinator. And he's made some really interesting decisions, like Daryl Moose Johnson as his director of player personnel, which is awesome. But for what he does for the program and just being a part of it, is he worth $162,000? Well, I mean, if you look at what Bob Stoops means to fundraising and compare it to KJ Kindler winning championships for the women's gymnastic team, Mark Williams winning championships for the men's gymnastics team. We keep going down this list of folks that still coaching full-time, probably make a little bit less than Bob Stoops will make part-time. So I'd say he's more than fairly compensated, but I also wonder, at this point, you kind of want to keep him around because you don't have a president. And speaking of not having a president, Lincoln Riley's contract details gotten by the Tulsa World. Contract for $32.5 million through the 2023 football season, right? But I find it interesting that his buyout is $4.6 million at the end of this year, and then it goes down, by $1 million each year. And we all know how much the NFL wanted to know if Lincoln Riley was ready to make the jump. And I get that people keep comparing Bob Stoops to Lincoln Riley, like they kept wanting Bob Stoops to annually take over the Browns job because they suck. And I'm going, well, Lincoln Riley ain't Bob Stoops. And Bob Stoops had been a part of a really great football program before he took over at OU. People forget, defensive coordinator, Steve Spurrier, back when the ball coach made an annual tradition out of beating the holy hell out of Georgia. Okay? Lincoln Riley's sustained success came when Bob Stoops called him up. Now, he's said that he's very happy, and I believe him, right? But things change. So Gallagher is one of his last performances. Hey, have this on the way out. According to the Tulsa World, put in a directive that states that discipline up to and including termination can be used against any OU head coach who fails to properly monitor assistant coaches or administrative staff. Now, this attachment is separate from the NCAA required document executed by coaches over the past 5 or 6 years. A recent change in NCAA rules require that the elements of the attachment be included as part of the coaches' contracts. So Gallagher was basically saying out loud, this is your fault if anything goes wrong, Lincoln. And I'm sure Lincoln was like, cool. I mean, it's my program. That's what it's supposed to be. But that is in his contract also speaks to, what has always been true in college football, which is that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So I'm thinking, man, you look around at the scandals that are about college football right now. And the LSU bagman making a late appearance into what was Les Miles' career at LSU and now is the beginning of his career at Kansas. We look at the way that coaches are operating inside of recruiting. Everybody's closing their walls, talking about you're either with us or against us, and we don't want any fence sitters. Oklahoma State pulled an offer from a kid because he took an official visit.